For a time, the origin system and the Orokin Empire basked in a golden age of exploration and rapid scientific advancement. But that era has long since faded. Now we find ourselves at war with those who were created to help our empire thrive. To survive, we, the Orokin, must test out our new frames of war against the unimaginable. They must come face to face with him. Only the worthy will survive. Welcome back to the channel to know. I am your host, Vault0. I make daily Warframe content. Today, after a little bit of digging in the Leverarian, I found a very interesting story about Ivara and a primordial creature known as the Myrmidon. A creature so powerful that it was known to have erased Warframes from history. Warframes that we have no idea even existed, who they were, what their powers were, those that were deemed unworthy. Today we're going to take a deep dive look into the Leverarian and really analyze who the Myrmidon was, his origins, his motives, and how Ivara was the only frame to be able to defeat the Myrmidon. The following information is pulled directly from the Leverarian. Ivara, the Huntress. This tale comes to us from the secret history of the Orokin court by the historian Parvis. Have you perhaps heard tell of the Myrmidon? No matter. This preternatural beast figure, straight out of myth he was. One whose prey had no equal. Warframes were what this villain hunted. It is said that a number of frames have been erased from history by this monster. Models who no longer exist on any record. Those who are not remembered. It hardly seems possible that a single person could stand against a Warframe, let alone destroy it, let alone several. Perhaps Parvis enjoyed telling a little too much, or perhaps there is something to this story. Ivara encountered the Myrmidon quite early in her history, quite early indeed. A Dax emergency call, so Parvis writes, led Ivara and two unknown Warframes to a convoluted cave system. They found it littered with the bodies of murmured Dax and a resplendent bioluminescent algae. I imagine the chitinous folds of her Salax sedana would have made for excellent camouflage with that malevolent supernal glow. The secret history tells us that the Myrmidon appeared boldly before the three, in a wide chamber connected by many tunnels. Clad in red and gold armor, it gestured to the first Warframe. With that, Parvis describes a strange, clutching motion, as if seizing a falling apple. But it was no greeting, as we shall see. The powers of the first Warframe, the recipient of the gesture, promptly failed. The Myrmidon took advantage of the confusion to leap upon the hapless frame and press its palm to the warrior's head. In lurid detail, Parvis describes a flash of the most scintillating emerald light, and Ivara's battle sibling collapsed into a pile of hot dust. Parvis tells us the compiled tale from such overheard exchanges between the members of the Seven, and details that remained constant in courtly whispers. He tells us the second frame suffered the same fate as the first. Reacting, Ivara whirled around, promptly vanished, but one clutching gesture in her direction, and her powers had fled. Her cloaking field nullified, visible, vulnerable. She loosed a dash wire arrow to the high clove, but it never came. No escape, and the Myrmidon was upon her. The huntress spun, opening fire with her AK Samadhi pistols to send that devil scrambling for cover, arm thrown protectively across that twisted armored head. That clutching gesture was the key. Ivara needed the plan, and she needed it fast. She ran at the wall and up it, hanging there, waiting, as the Myrmidon flipped into the room. blasting the spot where he had expected her to be. Frustrated, he again made the same elaborate gesture, trying his luck. She saw it. The bracelet upon his wrist that glowed softly with the movement of the clutching glutton gesture. Ivara flipped from her perch, shouldering her exquisitely crafted Rubico as she did, and sighted the enemy. Really quick, if you guys are enjoying the video, make sure you smash that like button, make sure you leave a comment. Also, we have channel memberships that are brand new to the channel. We have really cool perks such as members-only polls, members-only videos once a month. With the polls, you really get a good hand in what kind of content we cover next when it comes to Warframe, whether it be lore, whether it be opinion-based, or news, things like that. So you really get to, really get a good feel for what we're going to be doing next, and I really like hearing from you guys' opinions on things like that. Memberships start at $2.99 a month, and like I always say, if you guys are unable to, financially provide for the channel right now, that's completely fine with me. Your viewership is more than enough for me. Through the Orokin scope, Hunter and Huntress meet eye to eye, each loosing a desperate blast, a bullet from Ivara, and a killing light from the Myrmidon. The green light lashed, touching her shoulder plate of Ivara's Avea armor, reducing it to dust. It saved her, and the Huntress won out, her shot claiming the Myrmidon's device in a shower of green sparks. But the Myrmidon's weapon remained lethal, and with it he lashed at Ivara in an emerald fury. Ivara would hit the ground and sprung into several surrounding tunnels. The Myrmidon's shot lacing a gouge in the porous chamber wall. Ivara pressed her back into the shadowed outcrop of the tunnel's end, while the Myrmidon's weapon blazed and cut and chewed through her only remaining cover. As good a time as any to discuss the weapon before you. The Artemis bow, the Huntress' signature weapon, and the tool in which she had brought so much good. Said by some to be spirit-bonded to her, others say it was a product of forgotten Orokin technology. What Parvis tells us next displays the good effect of what a warrior and what a weapon are capable of. Pinned behind a rodent cover, seconds from death, Ivara summoned her Artemis bow, and it came to her. She and the weapon is one. Without rising, she pulled it back, aimed high. She and the arrow is one, loosed. Under Ivara's guidance, the arrow turned its path and shot down the corridor towards the Myrmidon, and lengthwise through his weapon. Around Ivara, the walls flashed green for a microsecond, and the Myrmidon's weapon erupted. Then, silence. What is a bow without arrows? And these arrows, the origin system has never seen anything their like. Able to change the very nature at the whim of Ivara. Sleep, cloaking, rapid fire, they are the embodiment of her legendary versatility. She drew her bow again, but this time it was for her fallen comrades. With inhuman speed, she shot after shot, snapped and plucked each segment of the carapace from the Myrmidon's lean frame. Straps severing, clips popping. He was undressed with a swift efficiency by the preternatural accuracy of her aim and rapidity. Even before her final arrow belted the visored helmet of his head, she had the killing blow knocked and ready. There he stood, the Myrmidon, slayer of Warframes, naked, beauty, symmetry, even the capacity for language, sacrificed for raw power. But his face was the mockery of an Orokin face. She was sworn to never kill. The smirk of his pallid, angular visage told her he knew it as well. The grand doors of the Chamber of the Seven flew open. Across that reverberating expanse of polished darkness strode Ivara, dragging her prize. Before the assembled council, she dropped him, and with it, the Myrmidon's battered helmet. Here he would meet justice at the hands of his own people. Here, her fallen friends would be avenged. She beheld the seven, awaiting their judgment. The Myrmidon got to his feet, cleaning dust from one shoulder with a contemptuous flick. One of the seven leaned forward, removing a curious thing from their slender head, a lattice of delicate silver, placing it on the elevated chest-high curve of obsidian that separated her from them. Instantly, the Myrmidon collapsed, lifeless, to the floor. Ivara did not understand. Why? Why? A stingingly voice intoned her name. There stood Executor Ballas. He told her, "You have been battle and loyalty tested. Your companions, they were found wanting. They failed to adapt, failed to overcome, and so they are no more. But you, Ivara, you shall live. You shall be remembered." Her battle comrades, as we know, were not. Well, guys, that is the story of Ivara and the Myrmidon. I want to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments. I know I was pretty shocked when I got through the Leverarian, got through the end, and found out that it was actually just a test set up by the Orokin and the Council of the Seven. I don't know why, but I always find myself shocked by the savagery, the lengths of betrayal, and I'll just say torture that the Orokin would always invoke on the Warframes. I mean, there was nothing kind or compassionate about anything they did when it came to the Warframes. It always just kind of leaves me stunned when I get to the end of these kind of stories. But again, I just want to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you in the stars. The origin system is in turmoil. The fall of the Orokin Empire has plunged our system into a relentless power struggle. On one side, the prophet-worshipping Corpus cult. On the other, the engineered Grineer clone army. Both factions vie for dominance over the origin and every star within her reach. Amidst the chaos, the Tenno stands as the unpredictable variable, maintaining a fragile balance and preventing total anarchy. But are the Tenno truly the ultimate force that we believe them to be? A rogue corpus scientist challenges this notion, deeming the Warframes, and by extension the Tenno, obsolete relics of the past. He alone seeks to master the origin system. He is the Philanthropist. Welcome back to the channel, Tenno. I am your host, Vault Zero, and today we're going to be covering some more Fallout lore. We're going to take a look at a fringe case, a fringe story, if you will. This is going to be taking place on a desolate region on the outer reaches of the origin system. A rogue scientist known as the Philanthropist has splintered off from the Corpus faction and is now leading his own cult. The Philanthropist teaches that the Warframes are not the most dominant force in the galaxy, and that they are in fact obsolete. As a fact, he made a creature to prove it. The following information is pulled straight from Leverarian, and it details the vicious battle that took place between Styanax and the Leviathan, the creature created by the Philanthropist to replace the Warframes. Styanax, the Hoplite, Shieldbearer, Spear Carrier, the hero. We all know the story of Styanax and the Leviathan, and how a wily area outwitted the cult leader. She would summon her Warframe ally and call him down to the very heart of the monster's laboratories. And no wonder, because his events did not happen in some distant epoch, in the time of the Orokin Fall, nor the time of the Great Unraveling, the age of the despots, or even during the Smergine Concord. They happened surprisingly recently. We have so many monsters. Every child in Orokin times has heard the legends of the Belegant, the Slatherer, and the venomous Thrax. Those were stories, but one was real. Its creator dubbed the Philanthropist, a corpus renegade, established a cult in the formerly desolate region, in a location which I have agreed to keep secret to deter looters and amateur archaeologists. The site was never truly abandoned, you see, and one person's historical curiosity is another's beloved home. With science, this philanthropist ensured ever more bountiful harvest and secured himself both gratitude and worship. Legend says he would travel the system seeking out parentless children to shelter and educate, but time would tell that this act of charity would conceal a much darker purpose. The shield of Styanax, emblematic of his vow to protect those in danger. Young Arya was certainly in danger, and well, she knew it. Along with her older brother Darrow, she was one of the philanthropist's chosen. When they came of age, they would be summoned for a ceremony called Ascension Day, at which they would be taken to dwell in the eternal paradise. Certainly, none of those taken were ever seen again. I do not know how Styanax became Arya's protector, but I am certain Arya knew that the philanthropist came for her. Her ally would be waiting in the shadows. This was the fate of the chosen, to be merged into a monstrous mass. A Leviathan what possessed the philanthropist to create such a travesty, we can only speculate. What we do know is that he had been studying the infestation, and that he believed Warframes to be weak and obsolete. Perhaps he craved domination over others. Perhaps he yearned to create new life, life over which he alone was a god. Regardless, he was too much of a coward to pilot the thing himself. That was to be Arya's role. The sketches of the Samor helmet were discovered among Arya's possessions, implying that Styanax had a different earlier appearance. Arya must therefore have been in contact with Styanax long before Ascension Day. But how? There was a story that crops were found flattened in those fertile fields in the shape of a lotus flower, not easily visible from the ground, but detectable by an automated satellite. Styanax was there to defend Arya, and defend her he did. Really quick, I just wanted to say if you guys are enjoying the episode, make sure you smash that like button. I really appreciate you guys for watching. I want to talk to you guys for a second just about channel memberships. We have channel memberships starting at $2.99 a month. And that'll help me upgrade my equipment, some sound equipment, and things like that. And we have really cool perks such as unique stickers, emojis, things like that. Members only polls, members only videos once a month, so you can really get a good feel and a good hand in what we cover here on the channel in regards to Warframe lore and things like that. So I encourage you guys to check that out. I'll put a link down for that down in the description. But as I always say, if that's not something you're able to do at this time, that's completely fine with me, and your viewership is more than enough for me. Colossal Fist met Unyielding Shield again and again. With agility and endurance, the Warframe outpaced its towering foe. As the Warframe and the monstrosity did battle, Arya saw a familiar face among the multitude. Her brother Darrow, his blank eyes showing no sign of recognition. As Styanax struck again and again with the Ventus, making little headway against the relentless Leviathan, a final desperate scream from Arya achieved the impossible. It awoke Darrow. From out of those thousands of fused bodies, a single mind was suddenly saying no. Latching on to his remaining arms around the tormented Throst, and the very last of his life strength, the doomed arrow distracted the philanthropist long enough for Styanax to act. One last act of love and protection for his sister. The Warframe hesitated. It seemed that he understood the importance of Darrow's rebellion. If one mind could turn upon its master, why not all of them? With but a gesture, he gave the captive minds their freedom. Suddenly awakened and aware of their hellish plight, the damned townspeople tore the philanthropist's exposed face, a Leviathan's body coming apart as the arms broke free, and the mask clawing for revenge. Together, they dragged the screaming Philanthropist down, rending and tearing. In that moment, we can be assured the Philanthropist knew the depth of his failure, his defeat. Without the worshippers, a god is nothing. Styanax delivered the final, merciful stroke. Imagine the horror the non-shows felt in the aftermath, fear and uncertainty. Above all, unquestioned, habit had allowed this monster to flourish. Arya took over the cult and made it the community instead. They still thrive to this day, or so it is claimed. Styanax is the story's hero, but it was Arya's courage that summoned him. All revolutions begin when one voice dares to say, "I will not." Somehow, across the dark reaches, Styanax saw that courage burning bright and swore it would not stand alone. Well, guys, that is the end of the story. That is the end of Arya's revolution, the story of Styanax. But I want to leave you with this parting thought, and it's a question I've been thinking about a lot recently. We've seen evidence in Warframe 1999, the proto-frames, and we are the present Warframes. I don't think that the Philanthropist experiments, as horrible as they were, I think he had a point. I think that eventually the helminth virus, being that it is a virus and it will constantly evolve and adapt, is going to evolve to a point that Warframes will eventually become obsolete. We are basically Warframes 2.0 at this point, but at some point, Warframes 3.0 are going to come out, and the question is, when that time comes, will we be ready? But guys, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you smash that like button. I will catch you guys in the stars.
Watch your step, Tenno! My ghouls could be anywhere!
The Ghouls were designed with a simple philosophy. Victory assured through overwhelming numbers and the element of surprise. Welcome back to the channel. To know I am your host, Vault Zero, and we cover Warframe on daily. We cover lore as well as tips and tricks to help you conquer the origin system. Today we're going to be talking about the Ghouls and their role within the Grineer Empire. The Ghouls are hastily bred Grineer clones, grown in dipause bags, dropped in from space and buried into the ground. They are favored creations of Counselor Vahek, who refers to him as his children. The Ghouls can be found hidden under the ground all throughout the plains of Eidolon, ready to strike any tenant, oblivious and stumbling into near burial grounds. The Ghouls are Grineer's shock and ambush units, consisting of malformed, defective, and partially developed clones incubated for several days in dipause bags that are buried in the ground with an emphasis on simplicity and the speed of growth over the quality and finesse that the typical Grineer soldier is bred with. They are bred with toxic and paralytic blood. This makes them a threat even after they have died. They become a subject of study and research by Sigor Savannah, whose encrypted journal fragments have provided details about the various ghouls and how they are employed by the Grineer. Far from the finest of soldiers, these deformed monstrosities may be lacking in typical qualities such as intelligence, sanity, or even longevity, but their sheer numbers, deadly weapons, and savage, ferocious nature more than make up for it. Their burial process employs the element of surprise, which guarantees that any unlucky adversary will quickly become consumed and defeated. Ghouls are used in advance of normal Grineer troops to soften up the opposition. However, before the battle begins, it is crucial that the Ghouls must be kept sated, or they will turn and consume any nearby Grineer troops. Ghouls are relentless and incapable of feeling fear, as even massive casualties will be ineffective at quelling any ghoul advance. They can be mainly found and employed in the fields of Ivara, used by the Grineer with an attempt to reinforce their rule over the plains, while also using them to attack nearby Austrian militias. While not of Vor's design, the general uses the ghouls to great effect. Credit for the development of these horrors goes to none other than Dr. Tengus, father of the infamously unstable Grustag III. Developed in his laboratories against the wishes of Vor himself, and with the funding of a certain ill-fated counselor, the ghouls are Tengus's crowning achievement, and they have secured the Doctor's place in the good grace of the Grineer Queens. Dr. Tengus first created these vicious ghouls with the help of Counselor Vahek, set during the rise of the Grineer Empire in the Kuva Fortress. Vahek and Dr. Tengus discuss how obedient the ghouls will be to the Grineer Empire. Of course, the Doctor assures him, reminding him the Grineer Queens themselves will be the audience of the creation. Playing the good host, the counselor wears a wig and ruff before meeting the fellow Grineer generals. The Grineer treat him with disdain and disrespect, while the Grineer Queens find his act insulting. Apologizing, the counselor then shares his own visions to the Queen, a vision in which the Grineer conquers the solar system without having to deploy a single ship or carrier. The conquest, where an invasion of planets would simply mean seeding a batch of biomass bags from orbit. He presents the ghouls to the Queen, stunning his entire audience with his creation. Unfortunately for the counselor, in a stunning act of betrayal, or perhaps a deliberate stunt to showcase their ferocity to the Queen, the treacherous Tengus kicks Vahek into the ghoul's enclosure, where he is torn apart by the cannibalistic creatures. Impressed by the display, the Queens order Tengus to reconstruct Hek with cybernetics, turning him into the cybernetic monstrosity we see today. Really quick, if you guys have made it this far into the video, I really appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure you smash that like button. We're going to talk about something really exciting. We have recently unlocked channel memberships. We have really cool perks such as membership polls, members only videos once per month. We have cool stickers and emojis you guys can use. Memberships start at $2.99 a month, so it's not a bad deal, and it can help you support the channel, help me get better sound equipment, better recording equipment. But as always, if that is not something you guys are financially able to do at the moment, I completely understand, and your viewership is more than enough for me. Shifting our focus a little bit to the biology of the Grineer ghouls, they are draped in the shreds of bags that birthed them. Ghouls are formed with repurposed Grineer gene slurry and embody the phrase quantity over quality. Very little, if any, attention is given to the development of the higher functions, which cause them to exhibit what can best be described as primitive and even animalistic behaviors. Due to their cheap creation and outside factors such as malnutrition and environmental poisoning, the ghouls may possess characteristics such as receding gums, exposed bones, extended and pale skin. They may also lack verbal communication skills. The Grineer also attempt to bolster ghoul regiments through the use of growth hormone infusers, which allow for even faster gestation periods. Ghouls have a unique weakness to rock jewel, a common chemical used in Grineer manufacturing. Despite its benign in nature, a large dose of ultra-refined rock jewel can be quite fatal to any ghouls that are still developing. However, despite the ghouls' simple-mindedness and animalistic nature, some ghouls may be birthed with the cognition complex enough to understand their surroundings and desire to defect from the pack. Some defectors have attempted to contact the Steel Meridian and seek refuge in the Dissection, the Hands, and Dr. Tangus. All ghouls have paralytic blood, which is released in a cloud upon death that inflicts cold and toxic on any Tenno that comes in contact with the cloud. In addition to the biology of the ghouls, we're going to take a second to look at the 5 variations of the ghouls. Here we have the Ghoul Augur. It is a Grineer ghoul armed with drills that allow it to quickly dig underground and ambush their foe. Attached to these weapons are fuel canisters, doubling as flamethrowers. As with all ghouls, they will release a cloud of cold and toxin upon death. Moving on from there, we have the Ghoul Devourer. It is considered to be Vahek's personal favorite. Despite its massive girth, it is armed with a powerful wrist-mounted hook that allows it to close the distance between it and its target. The third type is known as the Ghoul Expired, a Grineer ghoul that has suffered from malnutrition or poisoning during the early part of its development, causing their nervous systems to drive them forward and function as the ideal suicide troop, aiding them in their task as a pair of shields and multiple bomblets strapped on. Coming in at number 4, we have the Ghoul Rectus, which is a ghoul armed with the Ghoul Saw. These saws can be fired similar to the Pathera's alternate fire, traveling a distance before returning to them. They also have the uncanny ability to ride on the ejected saws, allowing them to approach and ram their enemies from afar. And finally, we come to the most dangerous type of ghouls, the Ghoul Alphas. Despite their unpredictable and fickle nature, some ghouls may develop unforeseen mutations, such as higher brain functions. Despite their abilities being rudimentary, they still allow these lucky ghouls to rise above the others and lead them. Additionally, Ghoul Alphas may simply be more brutal and savage than the rest. Alphas lead their packs with relentless savagery and may attempt to call out any unlucky ghoul defectors and hold them prisoner for dissection. I did want to let you guys know about a really cool webcomic series that Digital Extremes did based on the Ghouls, and it's actually when the Ghouls were debuted. Basically, a Grineer army led by Captain Vor raided an Ostrasan village on the plains of Eidolon. They scavenged for Orokin artifacts left in the vicinity, and when a Excalibur Warframe arrived to help fend off the invaders, the Ghouls were dispatched, and even though the Excalibur fought bravely, he was overwhelmed by the onslaught of their sheer numbers. And I thought that was really interesting because with the new player experience, it doesn't really explain why you wake up in the Ostrasan village, or who Vor is, or why you have the device strapped to your Warframe. However, if you read the comic series, it makes a lot of sense because you're actually the frame that was responding to the Ostrasan call for help. But guys, that's all I have for you. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you guys in the stars. His name echoes through time and space, slipping through the cracks of the void. It has reached the furthest corners of the Origin system, calling out to those in search of purpose. They know him as the man with a golden hand. He is Parvos Granum. Welcome back to the channel, Tenno. I am your host, Vault Zero. I make daily Warframe content, as well as Warframe lore content. Today we'll be discussing a figure within the Warframe community that is quite influential. He even structured the original major faction that is the Corpus. Even though they plotted an assassination attempt against him, not even the Void itself was strong enough to deter Parvis Granum and his iron will. We're going to dive into his origins, his rise to power, and his future goals and what that means for the future of Warframe. The merchant cult known as the Corpus were originally founded by Parvo Granum in the Orokin era. He is also the inventor of the Spectre technology. As part of a deal he made with the Orokin, he received the Protea Warframe, capable of time travel and navigating the void, as his personal bodyguard. He was presumed dead for a millennia after being betrayed by the Corpus Board of Directors, where an assassination attempt resulted in his ship being lost during a faulty void translation. Unlike the current era Corpus, most notably the famous Nef Anyo, who achieved their wealth through slothful means, Parvis Granum is a cold, calculating, and intelligent man who values hard work and will actively take steps and measures to achieve his goals. He's disappointed in how low the Corpus have fallen, and on his return from the void, Parvis proclaims that he will restructure the Corpus, or otherwise separate himself from them to form his own splinter faction. Following his return, the current Corpus Board of Directors have been largely absent as Parvis leads the Corpus forces in space. He's formed the Sisters of Parvos with Valia Galerios as his assistant. He is already making major plays since his return to the Origin system. He's dispatched Salvashteen to the 010 and hired Drusus to acquire Uncharted artifacts from Maverick's laboratories. Parvis Granum grew up during the height of the Orokin era, together with his brother Claudius, who he admired for his physical strength while being frustrated by his naivety and his lack of ambition. Occasionally, he would imagine he had a clever sister instead. Perhaps this is where the idea would form in his mind of the formation of the Sisters of Parvos. They lived together with their father on a small farm as grain farmers, the same as dozens of generations of their family before them. And after years and years of backbreaking manual labor, one day Parvos left for the nearby Orokin city. He was awestruck by the dissonant splendor of the gem-encrusted gold and the ivory architecture, flaunting their wealth accrued through greed upon simple living people like himself and his family. He shouted, "I take what I am owed." He ripped a handful of rubidoed jewels from the gates and tried to run, but was promptly caught by Orokin servants, which dragged him to the town square. As punishment for theft, his left hand was cut off with a plasma dagger. While the crowd gathered and cheered, he managed to swallow one of the Rubidon gemstones. With the rubido burning up inside him, Parvos managed to crawl back to his farmstead, where his father and brother found him collapsed and near death. After coming back to his senses, he threw up the molten rubido, a feat that Parvis affirms would have killed any man with lesser convictions. And that single stone was worth more than 10 generations of farm work. Parvis returned to the city, pawning the gem for a financial loan. His newfound wealth in hand, he then loaned parts of it to other poor folk like him, those who desired more for their lives. With each new investment or associate, Parvis taught them his philosophy of the evils of contentment and idleness, as well as the gift of desire, while his partners themselves went on to further their loan to others and spread their teachings, gathering more followers with each transaction. In time, his fortune had multiplied exponentially, so much so that he would fashion himself a golden prosthesis for his missing left hand. One day during his journeys, news reached him that his father had finally collapsed under the toiling farm work. Parvis would rush home and find his father already deceased. Committing to the end of the history of his family's brutal and extorted labor, he gave the order to flatten and demolish the farmstead and the surrounding fields. Despite Claudius' protest, in their place he erected a new city of the future called Corpsium, where even the smallest of men will be able to apply his wit and desire to make his own wealth. One of Parvis' accomplishments was his creation of the spectre particle theory, which would set the foundation for spectre technology that enables imprinting of rudimentary behavior into bodies. The following is a quote from Parvis regarding his spectre theory. "Some doors ought to remain closed. That is not my worldview. Fire, fusion, and void. Progress always comes entangled with risk, with violence. With the precious sample obtained, development is accelerating, and the untrodden have kept their secrets for long enough. I am calling it the spectre particle. As my Archimedeans explain, mimicry is in its nature, an echo exposed to the preset circuits. We are able to imprint behaviors, like an infant mirroring its surrogate, or this infant can set the world on fire. The palace birds think they can control us. They hit our research site with a Warframe assault team. Of course they did. I baited them to it. The whole site lit up. 80 megatherm bloom. The whole lab vaporized. Those Warframes with it. Fire, fusion, void." At some point, Parvis would have a meeting with these palace birds, as he called them. He would meet with Ballas to fashion his own Warframe as his personal bodyguard.
"At last, esteemed Parvos, tell me what you desire, and we shall furnish you."
My desire is well known to you. Assemble what I have designed, and I shall be on my way.
Potent weaponry, exquisite anatomy, those are trivial. But temporal manipulation, even the Entrati...
The Entrati have violated time, and I have violated them.
Having acquired the Uncharted research into time, Parvis Granum conceived the designs from Protea to serve as bodyguard, and then as part of an undisclosed deal, Ballas obliged in creating the time-manipulating child of two fathers. As we know, Parvis would later be betrayed by the Corpus Board of Directors, whose assassins sabotaged his transport void drive. However, Protea's time powers were managed to save him. This resulted in him being trapped within a part of the void, which is known as the Granum Void. Cold and calculated as always, us re-entering the Granum Void was always part of the plan.
What shall we name her then? This child of two fathers.
Upon entering the Granum Void, Protea scans us and reactivates herself, resuming her role as the bodyguard and enforcer for Parvis' will. Really quick, you guys, I really appreciate you guys for watching the video. If you made it this far, make sure you smash that like button. I would like to take a second to talk to you guys about channel memberships. We just unlocked them not long ago. Really exciting stuff. They start at only $2.99 a month, and what they do is they help us to get better sound equipment, better recording equipment, things like that, that just help us make better content. You get really cool perks with it, unique stickers, emojis, behind the scenes looks, members only a minute of videos, members only polls, really cool stuff. I encourage you guys to check that out. That'll be linked in the description below. And as always, if you guys are unable to give to the channel financially at this time, I understand, and just know that your viewership is more than enough for me. We find that Parvis is still alive when the Corpus Board of Directors continuously vote, reaching an impasse. Nef Anyo invokes the Deadlock Protocol. This is a contingency plan in order to instate a successor to the founder. Nef Anyo makes the claim that he is a genetic heir, which, if true, would give him total control of the board. He intends to prove this by searching for traces of Protea and using the Solaris United workers as a sacrifice for the void temporal jumps to reach the Granum Void. Naturally, Tenno fights to thwart this plan, reaching the Granum Void before Anyo's henchmen do. There we find that Parvos has been preserved by Protea's sacrifice, trapping him in a temporal prison, at the cost of her herself becoming a specter. Parvos does not deny Anyo being his son, but is disgusted with his twisted and slothful methods within the corpus, stating he simply used him to summon the Tenno to reignite Protea into action. Our final encounter with Parvos inside the Granum Void has us defeat the Protea Spectre, but has us trapped after Anyo's fleet is destroyed. We defeat the Spectre, and in the aftermath, Parvos Granum is unfazed by the defeat. He sends the Tenno an inbox message stating that he intends to restructure the corpus from within to counter the impending threat from Tau. What that is, we can only speculate. Otherwise, he will abandon his children and splinter off into a new faction. He invites the Tenno as well as Solaris United a seat next to him. From there, he goes on to create the Sisters of Parvos. He recruits candidates to rise above the masses and become his sisters, providing them powerful Hound companions, Warframe Spectre Guardians, and latent technological weapons in the form of tenant weaponry. Valia Glarios serves as the right-hand woman, overseeing the growth of the sisters. From there, he partners with Drusus, the Leverarian curator, but when Drusus was unable to make payments on time, Dante's Leverarian was seized as compensation. Also, he has shown a desire to weaponize Jade. He has his forces attacking the Stalker's stronghold and trying to seize Jade's volatile motes to create an army of Jade-like Eximus. What this means for the system, I'm honestly unsure. I will say this is a hot take. I don't think that Parvos is that bad of a guy. I think he is more necessary than anything. He's seen from inside the void the new war. He knows we've already defeated the sentients. So if there's another incoming threat from Tau, his expertise, his leadership, and his know-how are going to be imperative in defeating whatever that threat may be. However, I will say that it's imperative that we do not allow him to weaponize Jade. He cannot be entrusted with that much power to have an army of Jade-like Eximus under his control. But guys, that is going to do it for me. I thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you guys in the stars.